You're on mute at the moment, Lee. So we, okay, so we're up and running. Good. So good morning. Good morning to the USA. First Wisdom's Chat USA. So BJ, thanks so much for being with us. Ed, for being with us as well. So we're looking forward to taking this forward and growing it and getting more people involved. And I was just saying to BJ off air this morning on the UK chats, we had a young lady join us. Well, a young lady, she's young by comparison to me. I won't mention anybody else in the forum, but join us, and she was referred to us by someone from the USA, which is fantastic. So we're looking forward to these connections being connected, whether it's hypothetically, Ed, or physically, or up the copper wire or down the copper wire. I'm not too sure which way it's going to go, but yeah, connect with us, connect with USA. We're now in the USA every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Central Time USA, in the UK, 8 a.m. GMT time at the moment in the UK, and 8 a.m. every day of the week in South Africa, GMT +2. So you're welcome to join us at any of those time slots, and there will probably be more as we go along. So looking forward to breaking that out. So Lee, I think we're starting off talking difference maker again this morning. I'm going to say this morning because we're in the USA. So let's be in the USA. So we're over there in the morning. So difference makers in the morning. So what is that all about?
Yeah, I think, and I think when I look at this group, and there's 4 of us here, and I think that's sometimes how we can feel about making a difference. We actually we're talking about these big organizations, and what power do we have to make a difference to the powers that be? And I know we've spoken about that in different other wisdom's chats. But I think sometimes there is a certain element of despair, and I don't want to start very negatively, but I am. A certain element of despair that says, so what difference can I make? And I say that, and I've said this before, that I was this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, idealistic, I'm going to change the world person, diving straight out of school into university to, tell the truth, to, I was going to, revolutionize the world. And I think that, that if I just reflect on that for a moment, it comes out of living in a country in war. So both Ivan and I grew up in Zimbabwe, right in the, certainly I'll speak for myself, the age that I was at. I was 5 when civil war broke out in our country, and it ended in the year that I matriculated. And so tension, this aggression, this divide between people was a reality that I lived with. Fear was a reality that I lived with my whole life. And so there was this passion to say, surely there must be something different. Surely we don't have to live like this. That if we got to know each other and understood each other and shared ideas and common experiences of what it means to be human, we do not have to repeat this. So that's how I stepped out of school and university. And of course, your idealistic dreams and goals quickly kind of fall around your ears, and you become disillusioned, and you wonder what you can actually do. The problems seem insurmountable. And so I've got to the place now of not cynicism, of not giving up, of not despairing, of owning again. Maybe not the idealistic vision that I had was based on unrealistic expectations, but still with a belief that each one of us has a role to play in making a difference, a positive difference in the lives of people around us, but more than that, our communities. And I was we were talking about the electricity supply company that, well, the monopoly that owns the electricity supply in our country. And so they're one of the few organizations that ask their clients to not use their product. So when there is a pressure on the grid, they, you know, and even now they're constantly asking you to turn off this and turn off that and not do this and not do that. But at various times there's more pressure than other times. And you just turning off your light or your geyser does make an impact on the grid as a whole. That your small action, actually that multiplied by the next person making their small action, multiplied by the next person making their small action, actually does reduce the pressure on the grid, and we get our electricity back again. So yeah, I think that's my long story about making a difference. And so I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Great, thanks, Leah. So yeah, from war to switching your geyser off, I'm not too sure how we meander down that path, but it's true, you know, and I know it is a great one for making a difference. And he was talking about comforting trees this morning or something odd like that. So you know, yeah, I think this is an area that you've grown in over the years since you sort of distanced yourself from that grey tie business that you used to be in, you know, accounting and auditing and so on, and came into the real world with the rest of us, and well, some of us anyway, Lee obviously, but so yeah, what are your thoughts on difference making?
Yeah, I used to be an angry young man at one point in time, and I was lucky. I mean, I've never been exposed to war, but I had a poster in my bedroom which listed all the wars that had happened since the Second World War. And there was never any point in history, this was up until I was about 25, where there had not been a war somewhere in the world. Korea, Vietnam, you name it, it had been there. And yeah, you can seem overwhelmed. And I wasn't making a difference. So I then became part of the system. And from within the system, I think I've made a difference, because I get listened to. I've sat on boards of charities that have made a difference in Tanzania and in South Africa. I've worked on AIDS projects in South Africa and made a difference. But I wanted to talk about something else as a difference maker, because I think conversations make a difference. And I'll give you a really good example. About 2 weeks ago on a Your Partnerships event, I was chatting in one of the breakout rooms to a solicitor. And she was interested in writing, and she learned I was interested in writing. So she asked to have a one-to-one the following week. We had a one-to-one, and she asked me to join her writing group. There's a couple of them that are writing a screenplay for a comedy series to go on TV or perhaps on Netflix. And I know nothing about writing scripts. I know nothing about writing comedy. So anyway, we had our first meeting over Zoom on Sunday. There's 4 of us, really nice people, but we couldn't really nail down what the vehicle was that was going to carry this comedy through the episodes. And then I'd also that week had a one-to-one with a guy called Frank Shapiro. And he's a lovely guy. We were initially going to have a 30-minute conversation, and we just chatted and talked, and the time just flew by. And I discovered that I'd bought a cup of coffee from one of Frank's sons, even though they live up in Scotland. You know, really small world, because they're into running, and they run a coffee stall at a particular big race. Anyhow, I invited Frank to come on to Wisdom's chats, and he came along to one of our chats at 6 o'clock in the morning our time, and he told this most amazing story about a woman with an autistic son and the problem she was going through. and how by talking to her, he changed the way she thought about things. And that gave me the inspiration for the storyline for the comedy series. It's all about a guy whose wife is perhaps on the autistic spectrum. In those days, we didn't talk much about that. The people were just weird. And how she dies and how he resents the fact that he's suddenly in a new world where he can't cope because she did all the cooking, she did all the washing, he can't use the washing machine, etc. And then he starts to have a life and he starts to resent her because she stopped him from having a life because they used to sort of spend all the time together. But the twist in the story is what Frank gave it, that towards the end, he realized that actually he loved her so much, he wanted to give her that regular life because of being autistic, that's what she needed. And he didn't resent her because he chose to. And you remember Frank saying the woman chose, wanted to. And so that conversation, and just think, that story might not ever, it'll get written, but will it get on TV? Will it get on Netflix? But if it does, we've changed the world from a couple of conversations. So I think the more conversations you can have, the more you can change the world. That's me.
Great, thanks, Ed. Yeah, I like the change in direction. So the change that you alluded to, and I think that's absolutely it, isn't it? I mean, you're going to change nothing if you keep quiet. So it's definitely about engaging and about chatting, and I mean, you often use the analogy, Ed, about the stone in the pond and the ripples that go out, and I think that's exactly it. So yeah, BJ, what are your thoughts on difference making?
Well, I am going to more than halfway mirror what Edward just said. I don't know if all of you know, I don't know if Edward knows, but I know you and Lee know a little bit about my background. And if it wasn't for that moment in my life that I had to have, I was forced to have one of those come to Jesus meetings. It was, what are you going to do? I either could go this way, or I could go down. And I just, all a little voice in the back of my head said to me was, you got something. You need to get out there. You need to prove your value. Your worth. God thought you were important enough to put on this planet, so go prove him right. But I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I hadn't discovered talents or skills or abilities at that moment. I only knew what I wanted, not what I needed. So it was that journey for the next 10 years was really eye-opening. And I agree with Edward. And for me, that's exactly where it started, was conversations. I'm a post-cancer survivor. But when I started joining cancer surviving groups, they were depressing. They were, woe is me, and I can't handle it, and I'm scared. And I didn't want to be in that place. I needed some positivity. So it dawned on me, if I'm feeling this bad, then there's got to be other people in other crisis modes that are feeling just as bad. So that began my journey. And I started conversations with people and burn victims and people with deformities, birth deformities. And I started talking to families who had autism or mental retardation, and my involvement in all these groups just kept growing. And the more conversation that I had, the more my world opened up, the more knowledge I gained, the more awareness I developed, and the more compassion I got. Because the truth was, and it didn't matter which group I drifted to, the basic need of every human being is that We want our children to be happy. We want a safe place environment. We want food in our belly, a roof over our head. And it doesn't matter what catastrophe of any kind confronts us, as long as we have support, whether that be from family or be from our community or be whomever it may be. That support is important. That started my journey. People. That's where I got that people have magic. And it is our job. It was my job. I took it upon myself to go out and help people find that magic. And that apparently was where I was supposed to be. And that is truly, although I know I have made difference in people's lives, but the difference is minuscule to the world. You can't, sometimes you get so broad-minded that, and it's good to be broad-minded, but at the same time you also have to have focus on what it is you do. And if with over my, I don't know, it's probably close to 700 clients that I've coached along the many years I've been doing this, I know I made a difference. So if only one of those 700 people remember me after my passing, I've made a difference. And that to me is powerful. That's powerful. It only takes the one, as Edward said, it only takes one, just one, to make a difference in this world, because that one could then go on to become the greatest architect or the greatest novelist or the greatest speaker, thought provoker, could be the greatest president of any country, could be a giant world. You never know whose life you're impacting. So it's all about the people and the magic you can bring them and show them what they got.
Thanks, PJ. I absolutely love that. And yeah, I think, it's interesting. I don't think one must ever underestimate that the impact that you can have and how far that can go. As you've rightly said, you might think you've made a minor difference in somebody's life, and they turned out to be a world leader of some sort. Ed occasionally says, he creates his ripples in the pond, and eventually they'll disappear. And when he disappears, and I disagree with that. I think it's those ripples will go on much longer than you can possibly imagine, and they will continue to impact, because that person will have an impact on the next and the next, and that will stem from your starting point.
And I think it's kind of sad that, and it's kind of become a minor mission of mine, but I think it's kind of sad that we are now focused and we're teaching these generations to work less diligently and pursue success and fame more, that we're not focused on the, again, I'm going to use the term, the broader aspect of life, getting back to the 101 principles that we're all here to help each other. And you can't help each other if you're only going down one path. You cannot stay that way. Going after a lifelong pursuit, as I mentioned earlier, it's wants versus needs. It's skills, talents, and abilities versus what am I good at? Because how many people have you known over the years that go to college because this is what they were told they wanted to do, or they had an interest in it and they thought it would be a good, rewarding, financially secure profession, and they're in it for 5 or 10 years and they say, what in the world was I thinking? This is horrible. So they back out because it was their want. It's not what they needed for them. So I see a lot of people in these last couple of generations pursuing that. And I want to switch that. I want to make that. Let's get back to the basics. We're getting too big for our britches.
Yeah, look, I think it's one of the challenges of the modern world and of social media, isn't it? We are driven actually by these external stimuli, which actually have nothing to do what we need. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, BJ. It's what other people want us to want, not what we actually need. It's getting back to those basics, those fundamentals, and recognizing that each and every one of us is a difference maker, whether we actually know it or not. There's always somebody who's actually looking up to you and saying, wow, what that person has done is amazing. You might not even know that, you might never know that, but actually recognizing for yourself that there's the potential of somebody actually looking at you from that perspective can change your attitude to the way you do things, the way you behave, the way you act, and therefore your ripples are going to grow, and you're going to have a greater impact and a wider impact. And I think, unfortunately, many people think, well, I can't make it. As Lee said, you get your idealistic dreams and hopes trashed by the system, and that's what happens. And you think, well, I can't do anything about it. But you're making a difference in somebody else's life. It may be a negative difference at that time, but if you understand that you're making a difference and you can turn that around, you can actually turn that into a positive difference making, rather than falling into that trap of perpetuating the negativity.
Well, look at the four of us. I mean, in the bigger realm of the world, we're little, we're minuscule. But Ivan's made a huge impact with what he's doing and accomplishing, him and Trevor. Edward, my gosh, and I mean no disrespect. I got all the respect in the world for you. But at your age, to be able to do what you have done, accomplish the marathons, to travel around, who couldn't see that as inspirational? Oh my stars. And Lee, you're an award winner. So for the love of Pete, who would have thought, 25, 30 years ago, who would have thought that was in your realm? So we have all each made our own little different waves in that water, and it's impactful. And to go back to that communication, it's all about the backstory. We're so focused on making that connection that we forget that there's a bigger side to that connection. We need to know where they come from, and that's why I love this platform, because it increases our knowledge and our awareness, our curiosities. I want to know more. I want to know. I am a curious person to begin with. That, I guess that's why I do what I do. But it's fascinating to me, because again, once we learn what people have gone through, it's kind of like that 6 degrees of separation, because once you learn what somebody else has done, chances are somewhere in their life, you've done that too, or been there, or have come close to it. So if you don't have those conversations, those important, those timely, those warming conversations, how are you going to grow? How are you going to be successful in whatever endeavor you pursue? You can't always just be self-focused. You got to get to know people.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thanks so much, BJ. And I think it's amazing how time flies when you're having fun, and we're having a great conversation. But sadly, we have hit the bottom of the hour, but certainly not the end. This is just the beginning. So it's just the start of something great, BJ. I'm sure we're going to grow this, and we're going to have those conversations. We're going to make those connections, and we're going to have those impacts that we really want to have. And we're really looking forward to developing that with you. So thanks so much. And Lee, back to you to see if you've got any ideas and sparks of thought what we're going to chat about next week.
Well, Edward and I both jumped on what BJ was saying, and BJ, you said it a couple of times. There's a magic in people, and I'd love for us to talk more about that, because I think there was an animated movie fairly recently. I think it might be called Onward or something along those lines, but that the premise of the movie starts with magic has become ordinary. So there are unicorns and there are these amazing things, but it's become so blasé that we've lost our appreciation and also our awe of magic. And I think maybe that has happened with our relationship with people. When you talk about difference making and what is the magic in people. So I'd love us to just talk a little bit more around that next week. BJ, thank you to you. Because I think there's a lot we can say about that. And I'd love to explore that more.
Awesome. And I want to thank you guys. I know this took some work and effort, and I do appreciate all that you have done to make this into the USA. You know, I've been a fan for a long time, and I'm extremely proud and humbled to present this to the US. So thank you.
Thank you. Right, wonderful. Thanks, folks. So yeah.
Thanks, BJ. Thanks, everyone.
Don't bring your magic wands or your brooms or your pointy hats next week, but focus on the magic of the people.
Lee's going to bring her Lego.
Lee can bring her Lego.
I can bring my Lego.
Because it's Harry Potter Lego, so it's there might be a magic wand or two in there as well.
Yes, but I have to make it. I have to do the work that BJ was talking about.
Coloring outside the Lego lines. Yeah. Okay.
So, see you guys next week.
Yeah.
All
have a
right.
great day further.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Doesn't.